We paid 60% of the total.
Oh my God. Oh, is this going to be the first time in my entire life that somebody actually, to his face, fact-checked?
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well,
Not here.
are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Jesus Christ.
Every state.
Definitely not authoritarian, by the way.
The idea to have Ukraine. I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the ones to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand,
Why is, what's the context of this that he's giving this opinion right next to Trump, who must completely disagree with this, maybe? Or maybe Trump can't even follow the conversation. By the way, just as a heads up, don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget how they did my boy dirty. They did my boy Biden dirty.
And
when Trump closes his eyes here, if this was Biden, they would say that Biden was falling asleep during this press conference, okay?
being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those
Biden
who
nods
paid
off.
for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total.
Oh my God! Oh! Why didn't I think of this? That's what we needed for real journalism in the United States of America. We needed a fucking Frenchman to come over here and do it. Oh, is this going to be the first time in my entire fucking life that somebody actually, to his fucking face, fact-checked this fucking orange orangutan dipshit? Finally, what? The context is that the French don't give a fuck about what Trump and Americans think. The French historically have been pretty independent of everything. I think the French people just kind of like do their own shit. Like I think, haven't there been times where France is considered like pulling out of NATO, where they're just like, this shit? I feel like France has a history of, well, then there's also the French Revolution means everything. I don't actually know about those. But yeah, the French have a proud tradition.
Money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear,
okay.
We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a.
He knows things. Why can't my leader know things? I just want. Look, this guy knows things. He knows numbers and percentages and like things that are actually happening. He knows real things that are happening. This guy is like, I feel like this is the look Finkelstein gave me when I was correcting him in debates. This is like the Finkelstein. He's like, yeah, whatever.
But this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us.
If Trump would have said this, I would vote for him in 2028. If Trump had the audacity to look at him and go, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand a single thing you just said," and then took a question from the from the press, I'm sorry, that would be very funny.
Super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia will have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Oh my! You just call this guy a liar to his face? Like nobody debates these numbers.
But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But you know that's only fair.
To do something.
France, Please. I'm pretty sure we're only a country because of you guys, because of the help we had in the Revolutionary War. Please come save us again. Please, God. Please. Louis in YouTube chat says, do this 2 or 3 more times and Trump might press the button on France. True, actually, maybe. Apparently, the United States is joining Russia, Israel, Belarus, North Korea, and Nicaragua that are voting against the resolution condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Why is Israel here? The fuck? I thought Israel generally supported Ukraine. What's the story with that? Because they just vote with the US? No, lots of Russian Jews in Israel, and Israel has always had a more neutral stance than optimal. First of all, if there are Russian Jews in Israel, pretty sure it's because they were escaping the Russian Empire, because they were literally sectioned off into fucking no man's land for them to all live. There's no way they left with a favorable view. Where was like the fucking Jew province? It was like way the fuck over here someplace, like Jew land that they try to ship them all off to, right? Russia and China don't ask questions about money. All of those countries rely on some kind of principles to do business with. Trump has none. What is Trump? Trump is like 89 years old. Does he really need? This is legacy shit. It has to be legacy building. It's not money. There's no way that this guy is thinking like, God, I got to make more money. I think he's thinking of legacy now, is my guess, right? That's why he wanted to rename the Gulf of Mexico. It's why he's looking at trying to take some fucking 51st state bullshit, whether it's Greenland or whatever. If I keep saying like if I was Trump, there are so many things that I could do better, that anybody could do better. But I guess I just don't know what his goal is. Like if I was Trump, I feel like what you would do is, okay, now that I'm president, if let's say you wanted a legacy, I would just try to find the things. What are all the things that Democrats really want? And then find anything on this list that Republicans also kind of want and literally ramrod this shit through Congress, because it would be the easiest thing in the world, because you can make every Republican go along with you for anything and then just find some shit that Dems want that you would want too, and then you're good. I don't know how he feels. I don't even know how Republicans in general feel about like weed legalization, but that's the thing that like if Trump wanted it, he could snap his fingers and tomorrow weed would be legalized federally in the United States. Like it would be super easy. Boom. Trump could easily do that. Probably like a $12.50 an hour minimum wage. I think Trump can easily do that. A public option? Now, I don't know if Republicans would like that because of all the spending and bullshit. My intelligence analysis teacher thinks it's because he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. For what? Why would he care to appeal to Dems? It's not that he would have to care to appeal to them. It's just that if a policy had any appeal to them, he could easily shove it through Congress because he has a Republican majority in both halves. So he could just like easily pick, a few Democrats will go with this. Boom, that's passed tomorrow, you know? Isn't it just power? By siding with Russia, he is siding with a leader who has a lot of power, the type that he wants. If he were to side with Western Europe, he'd be ceding some of his discretion to the hive mind of the West. Yeah, but if the West is a hive mind, America is the mind and they are the hive. Isn't that what you'd want? Why would you want to be Putin's bitch? It's not like we're getting anything from Russia. Charlie Kirk is coming to my campus. I'm planning on being ruthless on his stand on abortion, tax policy, and immigration. Please let me know if you have any tips. If you want to be ruthless, you have to pick like one thing and like read up really hardcore on it. Just pick one topic. Don't try to go through a bunch because he'll fuck you. It's his job, right? After seeing how many things Trump changed with the stroke of a pen, what are some things that he could have signed to more fulfill his empty promises? I mean, he hasn't really changed anything yet. Nothing's really happened except for him damaging and destroying us everywhere reputationally and like throwing wrenches into the government. But in terms of what's going to actually stand, who knows? Somebody linked this. Tax cuts are primarily responsible for the increasing debt ratio. I've heard this, that under Biden's administration, the majority of the additionally incurred debt basically went towards paying off the debt from the Trump tax cuts plus the lost revenue from those. Although, to be fair, this is a little bit of a one-sided analysis because you can say tax cuts are responsible for the increasing debt, but you can also say a refusal to cut spending is responsible as well, right? Because you could cut spending, but nobody wants to cut spending. That's the issue, you know? According to Republican revisionist, President Obama only sent Ukrainians blankets when Russia invaded Crimea and the Donbass in 2014. In reality, President Obama's leadership saved Ukraine from being entirely taken over by Russia. Obama rescued the Ukrainian economy while collapsing Russia's economy with strategic sanctions and shale exports. Obama provided U.S. lethal aid while overseeing Soviet-era arms being transferred immediately to Ukraine and training Ukrainians to use U.S. arms later. Obama sent U.S. forces into Ukraine to reform the Ukrainian military's training and mobilize hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers to later be able to fight on par with Russia in 2022, saving Ukraine from collapse. I feel like I'd read that Trump was the first one who sold lethal aid to Ukraine. Am I making that up. Wait, is this Obama or is this like a poster cutout of Obama? Hi, I posted here a week ago about Assad supporting jihadism. This time I have a 10 to 15 minute read about Obama's strong response to Russia's 2014 invasion of Crimea. Oh boy, this is one of my talking points, that Obama's response was super weak and not good. Here we go. Everyone at the top of the CIA and military agreed with all of Obama's decisions as they were presented with the same information he was. Republicans control 80% of foreign policy discourse and lied about Obama to cover up Russiagate and to cover up Bush actually not doing shit about Georgia in 2008. But Obama is the reason why Ukraine didn't collapse in 2022 as well as in 2014. The Ukrainian military itself is a legacy of Obama. Obama sent CIA ground troops into Ukraine to assist Ukrainian frontline forces killing Russians in 2014 as well, and he sent the FBI to Ukraine to purge all of Ukraine's institutions of Russian moles. Basically, Obama took Euromaidan to the Ukrainian state itself. Shouldn't be very surprising he waged war against Russia all across the world, while Republicans stood with Putin under Obama's term. Putin hates Democrats in particular because Democrats stood with his bullshit under Obama and later under Biden. Article also details Trump's first term, where he undermined Ukraine in more ways than is commonly known, and details Trump assisting Russian military conquests. Russia invaded half a dozen countries under Trump. Elon Musk makes an admission about the productivity email his group sent to federal workers. Department of Government Efficiency head says he wants to test whether federal employees are capable of replying to an email. Elon Musk said the blanket email sent to federal employees asking for a response about their weekly accomplishments or risk termination was a test to see if they had a pulse. The tech billionaire tasked by President Donald Trump with slashing bureaucracy and federal spending through his Department of Government Efficiency wrote on his X platform Friday that all government staff would receive an email requesting specifics of what they'd achieved last week. Workers reportedly received the email Saturday afternoon from the Office of Personnel Management with the subject line, "What did you do last week?" Failure to reply would be taken as resignation, Musk tweeted. Less than 24 hours before the deadline, Musk hinted that the emails were simply a ruse to ensure federal employees were capable of responding to his correspondence. Okay, epic. Definitely not a bureaucratic waste of fucking time, but wow. This was basically a check to see if the employee had a pulse and was capable of replying to an email. This mess will get sorted out this week. A lot of people in for a rude awakening and strong dose of reality. They don't get it yet, but they will. This email is interesting because it clearly shows that Musk is not talking to anyone else before implementing his ideas, given Patel's pushback. I think others realized it was going to be a ton of extra work with zero structure beyond a Musk tweet destiny. Yeah, but that's the issue with all of these Trump things. Trump is not communicating with anybody, right? That's why when Trump is doing these crazy executive orders and then is it the OPM, Office of Personnel Management? Was it the OPM memo? I feel like that wasn't the abbreviation. I thought it was OMB. What the fuck does that stand for? Office of Management Budget. This was the one. When the OMB memo went out for like the federal spending freezes, everybody freaked the fuck out as well. But it's like them freaking out isn't an example of like, wow, Trump is making big changes and blah, blah, blah. It's an example of Trump being an ineffective leader because you should never be issuing these orders without conferring with your department heads first to make sure that everybody's on board and everybody's like ready to come along with your program. Like, this is what we're going to do. You know, get your department ready for it. But instead people find out like on fucking Twitter, like, oh, I see, there's a massive upheaval coming from my department and I just found out today and my deadline is like a week from now. Great. Ugh. JD is still nowhere to be seen. He was over in Europe abdicating U.S. leadership of the world. When these orders started going out, our department leadership were unsure how to comply with them. Yeah, that's not good. You have to like confer with your officers. That's the whole point of having them as the president, is to make sure they're ready and on board for incoming changes. But have you seen the acceptance speech from Merz, the new German chancellor, ripping Trump and Musk apart? I have not. How long is it? You can look if you want. I can't believe the U.S. voted against the resolution to condemn Russian aggression and demand the immediate withdrawal of Putin's forces. We could have just abstained, right?
Free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris.
I'm quite concerned about what we're hearing from Washington, especially in the last few days. However, I personally do not believe that this is the last word. I'm also hearing very different voices from Congress. There are many Americans who are critical of the way their own government is going at the moment. In my view, it is crucial that we on the European side of the Atlantic have a common stance on the issues that need to be addressed. Let me give you an example. Trade policy is European and not national, and there will be no way to treat the member states of the European Union differently when it comes to customs duties, for example. Europe will have to speak with one voice, speak with one voice. The same applies to NATO. We will have a NATO summit in The Hague at the end of June. Is that normal? Is that where the NATO summit usually meets? Or is that supposed to be symbolic of saying fuck the US? By then, at the latest, it must be clear how the transatlantic relationship will develop. And by then, at the latest, it must also be clear what contribution Europe is prepared to make to defense within NATO. And I remain hopeful that the Americans will consider it in their own interests to be involved in Europe as well. That's where it usually is. And what we also see with the greatest concern, of course, is the attempt to strike a deal with Russia over the heads of the Europeans. Over the heads of Ukraine. That will come as no surprise to you when I say that. This is unacceptable both for Ukraine and for Europe. This really is the last warning sign to the political parties of the Democratic Center in Germany to find common solutions. I am determined to accept this task. I'm determined to hold constructive, good, speedy talks with the Social Democrats so that we are then in a position to form a government in Germany within the time frame I once mentioned, i.e., roughly by Easter. I repeat what I said last night. The world is not waiting for us. It is developing rapidly. Germany needs a government that is capable of acting, that has a parliamentary majority behind it, and that can end and overcome this current situation as quickly as possible. If those who really do not just make America first their motto, but also America alone prevail, then it will be difficult. But I remain hopeful that we will succeed in maintaining the transatlantic relationship. As I said, it is in our mutual interest that if it is destroyed, it will not only be to the detriment of Europe, it will also be to the detriment of America. That's why I hope, and will do everything I can to preserve the good transatlantic relationship that I have come to know. But that presupposes that we are in agreement at the European level. I'm convinced that NATO continues to function well. I have been in very close contact with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and last weekend at the Security Conference in Munich, I had another intensive personal discussion with him. I believe that Mark Rutte has one of the most important functions in the transatlantic relationship anyway. I know that Mark Rutte and Donald Trump also have a very good personal relationship, and that's why I hope and also assume today that we have a chance to maintain the transatlantic relationship within NATO as well. We actually spoke on the phone last night. Benjamin Netanyahu called me, congratulated me. You know that we know each other very well. And I also told him that we should see each other soon after the government is formed. And in the event that he is planning a visit to Germany, I also promised him that we would find ways and means for him to visit Germany and leave again without being arrested in Germany. I think it is a completely absurd idea that an Israeli prime minister cannot visit the Federal Republic of Germany. He will be able to visit Germany. So I believe that's a reference to the fact that the ICC, it's Rutte, the ICC has issued, I think, an arrest warrant for, was it for Gallant and for, Gallant was the Secretary of Defense, although he no longer is, or the Minister of Defense, and Benjamin Netanyahu. And as a member state to the ICC, Germany technically has an obligation to arrest Netanyahu if he's in their territory, and they have the ability to do so, but obviously they don't want to do that, so Would you be in favor of a country doing something like that? Ooh, that's a really rough one. The arrest warrant for Netanyahu is kind of wild. And I think the arrest warrant is wholly inappropriate, number one. But then number two, if you don't enforce it in ICC member states, you're undermining the International Criminal Court pretty significantly. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a rough one. Today, President Emmanuel Macron of France. Also, nobody linked me any interesting parts from this press conference. So, was it all bullshit? Fuck you guys. President Emmanuel Macron of France joined me in the Oval Office to speak to the G7 summit. The meeting was convened by Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, the current chair of G7, to acknowledge the third anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, which would have never started if I was president. Good one. Everyone expressed their goal of seeing the war end, and I emphasized the importance of the vital critical minerals and rare earths deal between the United States and Ukraine, which we hope will be signed very soon. Seriously? So that's a real thing that he's pushing for? The paper that was slid across to, I don't think it was Zelensky, but it was like the ambassador or something, that we wanted 50% of their reserves or some bullshit. There's no way that's real, right? Holy shit, Trump is negotiating in ways that I didn't even imagine. I was thinking in Ukraine, Russia, if the United States were to negotiate, because Trump is such a horrible negotiator, that Ukraine would just be completely fucked and Russia would get everything they want and Ukraine would get nothing they want. I didn't even consider that Ukraine could even lose to third parties not involved in the war. Was it to Zelensky? I don't know if it was an ambassador or not. Like, what the fuck are they even getting in return for this? Where is all the great negotiating happening? Hello? This deal, which is an economic partnership, will ensure the American people recoup the tens of billions of dollars and military equipment sent to Ukraine. Oh, so now it's tens of billions? Because before he was saying 300 billion. But it was more than tens of billions. He just puts out like random numbers, I guess. While also helping Ukraine's economy grow as this brutal and savage war comes to an end. At the same time, I'm in serious discussions with President Vladimir Putin of Russia concerning the ending of the war and also major economic development transactions, which will take place between the United States and Russia. Talks are proceeding very well. Bilateral agreement establishing terms and conditions for a reconstruction investment fund. Okay. The government of the United States of America and the government of Ukraine intend to enter into this bilateral agreement establishing terms and conditions for a reconstruction investment fund to deepen the partnership between the U.S. of America and Ukraine, as set forth here, and the government of Ukraine and the United States of America, with the aim of achieving lasting peace in Ukraine, intend to establish a reconstruction investment fund in which the United States maintains 100% financial interest. Ukraine and the United States will equally co-manage the fund to advance the economic value associated with the resources of Ukraine, including but not limited to mineral resources, oil and gas resources, and infrastructure and ports until the fund is fully funded. The fund will be established to collect and reinvest the revenues minus actual operating expenses contributed to the fund during the period of defending, reconstructing, and returning Ukraine to its year-end 2021 gross domestic product figure. The fund will earn income from Ukrainian sources, including but not limited to deposits of minerals, hydrocarbons, and other extractable materials, any and all natural assets, and infrastructure and ports, as may be further described in the fund agreement. What the fuck? The government of Ukraine will contribute to the fund 50% of the revenue, minus actual operating expenses earned from Ukrainian sources, including but not limited to deposits of minerals, hydrocarbons, and other extractable materials, any and all natural assets and infrastructure and ports, as may be further described in the fund agreement. The fund agreement will provide that the contributions to the fund by the government of Ukraine will continue until the contributions reach the sum of $500 billion. The fund agreement will separately provide that the government of Ukraine will additionally contribute to the fund a sum equal to twice the amount that the United States provides to Ukraine after the date of this agreement. To that end, the government of the United States of America intends to provide a long-term financial commitment to the development of a stable and economically prosperous Ukraine. Such potential further contributions shall be detailed in the fund agreement and may be compromised are comprised of funds, financial instruments, tangible and intangible assets critical for the reconstruction of Ukraine. The fund's operating profit distribution mechanism will also be designed so as to invest in projects in Ukraine and attract investments to increase development, including but not limited to the extraction and processing of subsoil in Ukraine and the development of infrastructure and ports. The fund agreement will pay particular attention to the control mechanisms that make it impossible to weaken, violate, or circumvent sanctions and other restrictive measures. The text of the fund agreement will be developed without delay by working groups chaired by authorized representatives of Ukraine and the United States of America. So at the end of the day, what? It's the United States is investing a little bit of money into Ukraine, and the Ukraine has to pay the U.S. $500 billion, and then 2 times whatever we invest in them? Am I understanding this? Furious, Zelensky screamed at Trump's envoy for trying to make him sign a $500 billion mineral deal and was so loud he could be heard through the door and left the U.S. Treasury Secretary shaking. Jesus Christ. Lies. Pure propaganda. I was there. You can see the video. Besant is standing and talking calmly. I like how that's the part he needs to correct. This traitorous, treasonous fuck. Unbelievable. The fact that this guy was ever in the military should be enough to fucking... Ooh, video games.
President called Zelensky a dictator. Would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens.
The president called Zelensky a dictator.
We watched this earlier in the stream, but just to rewatch it. Macron does what no U.S. journalist will ever fucking do.
I support the idea to have Ukraine because they are the ones to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was.
Oh, I didn't even see that before. He reaches over and he guides him like a disobedient child. He puts his hand on him and says, "Excuse me, sir. Please shut the fuck up."
Is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. Okay. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia will have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me. But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But, you know, that's only fair.
To do so.
Mr. President, next week there's a key deadline for your Canada and Mexico tariffs. I believe those countries have done enough on the border to stop those from taking effect. And for President Macron, I'm wondering if you believe that this critical minerals deal with Ukraine represents a de facto security guarantee by the United States, since the U.S. would have an interest in protecting those reserves in Ukraine. Thank you.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools.
The worst deal makers. These countries have been tariffing us and taking advantage of us for years, and it's not going to happen anymore.
It's because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like has happened over the last long period of time, except for a little 4-year period that took place 4 years ago.
Really? Then why are we talking about tariffing Canada and Mexico when that was your deal that you did 4 years ago?
But
6 years ago,
anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves. No, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. And I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame
my own leadership for being so weak.
Our leadership for allowing it to happen.
No, we get it. Jesus. Richard, I like your tweets and your Substack, but you really need to become a Democrat. Now that the Zionism debates are over, there's no reason for you to remain in the low IQ party. Yeah, being smart and on the right is increasingly untenable. Do you see we're on track to have one of the biggest flu seasons in like the past couple decades? Based. Flu vaccine rates are like sunk like 10, 20, 30 points in certain demographics. Jesus, Steve Bannon. Why are they even polling on this shit right now? What the fuck? I guess it's for fun, but ugh.
I recently started watching. I want to ask you, what exactly did you say to Trump? Did you look him in the eyes and say it's the Jews?
Oh my gosh. You're just like mentally unwell. Or really, really dumb. Either way, we need some elite human capital. Richard Hanania, if you can hear us, please save us. Richard Hanania, if you can hear us. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. The wages of low IQ anti-Semitism. These are the wages of low IQ anti-Semitism. I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could I know? Richard Hanania, please. Oh, have mercy. We need some elite human capital. What exactly did you say to Trump? Did you say it's the Jews? Oh, brother.
Trump sent $10. No message.
Thank you.
Nice.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. If I ever meet him, I'll probably kill him.
Damn.
He's the worst person. Thank you.
Have you ever met Tucker?
If I ever meet him, I'll f***ing kill him. Do you think it's just a cycle of Fuentes hating Jews openly, then putting the mask on? Well, no, but the issue is that when you rage bait with anti-Semitism, the people that you pick up, like anti-Semitic people are generally fucking retarded. So it's like he's probably just frustrated that his audience is kind of low IQ, you know? Fuentes snaps at his super chatters.
Orthodox Cypriot Groyer sent $5. Israel has ordered the seizure of the Armenian Orthodox Church in Jerusalem. Greatest ally.
Greatest ally? Not. Greatest ally, not. Yeah, right. Greatest ally. Wink. Yeah, good one, dude.
Sent $15. Thank you for blessing my Instagram Reels. My heart goes out to you.
What are you talking? Oh, yeah.
Foily sent $5. Be nice to the Rhodesian posters on Twitter. That was my first red pill out of libertarianism. No support from USA during Cold War.
Dude, shut up. Shut up.
What chance do we have?
Shut up. Shut up.
You got these not so quick that niggas punching air right now.
What are you talking? Oh, the salute, yeah.
Connor MC Grower sent $5. You frequently mention that the American dream is dead because America no longer manufactures things.
Shut the f up! I hate these super chats that are like, you say this. Shut the f up.
Niggas for Nick sent $14. What are your thoughts on Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam?
Not a fan. He's a good speaker, though. He's super cool.
Beluga Groyer sent $15. Happy Thursday, big guy. Have a Big Mac on me. God bless.
Thank you. That's a good super chat.
Beluga Groyer sent $15. Basemode sent $5. Yo.
Base Big Macs.
I stopped my discussion with President Putin after Bucha and the war crimes because I considered that, we had nothing to get from him in the time. Now this is a chance, there is a big change because there is a new US administration. So this is a new context. So there is good reason for President Trump to re-engage with President Putin. But my experience is the following. and I shared it with President Trump and the team. In 2014, our predecessors negotiated peace with President Putin. But because of the lack of guarantees, and especially security guarantees, President Putin violated this peace. And I had several discussions, especially beginning of 2022, several times, 7 hours with President Putin, 15 days before launching of the attack. He denied everything, but we didn't have security guarantees. So this is why being strong and having deterrence capacities is the only way to be sure it will be respected.
Oof.
And I insisted on that, and this is why I believe that the US has the capacity to do so. And this is why I think we should never say, I will never send any boots on the ground, because you give a blank check to violate any type of commitment. So I think it's good to have discussion. I think it's useful to have negotiation. I think it's super important to go to the peace. But my strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified. And let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees on the short run. And this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup, because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees. And this is our collective deterrence capacity. And I have the feeling that the president has this capacity.
I think it's
What was he going to say? I think he's right. Deterrence capacity would require the U.S. to actually do something, though, to hurt Russia if they violated.